On a quiet Friday night in December 1991, a fire broke out inside a small frozen yogurt shop tucked away in a North Austin strip mall. Fire crews rushed to the scene, expecting a routine blaze. But what they uncovered inside was anything but ordinary, and would forever change the city of Austin. Inside the smoke-filled wreckage, the bodies of 4 teenage girls were found. They had been bound, gagged, and tragically killed, their lives cut short in the most brutal way imaginable. The fire had been deliberately set to cover up a horrifying crime. The victims were best friends, sisters, daughters, and their loss devastated the community. But as the investigation unfolded, it became clear that this was no straightforward case. Leads vanished. Suspects came and went. And despite multiple arrests and confessions, no one has ever been definitively held responsible. Over 3 decades later, the case remains unsolved. Families are still searching for answers. And a city is still haunted by the question, who could have done something so unspeakable, and why? This is the story of the yogurt shop murders, a case that continues to raise doubts, questions, and controversy. And now, with a new HBO docuseries shedding fresh light on the investigation, the tragedy is once again capturing national attention. Welcome to InsightWave, the channel that delves into both solved and unsolved cases from around the world. If you haven't already, please take a moment to like and subscribe to stay up to date with the latest crime stories delivered straight to your inbox. December 6, 1991. Austin, Texas. It was a cool Friday night in the city's North End. Christmas was just a few weeks away. For many, it was the start of a quiet weekend, high school students wrapping up homework, families making plans, and young teens grabbing dessert at their favorite after-school hangouts. One of those places was a small frozen yogurt shop tucked inside a strip mall on Anderson Lane. It was called I Can't Believe It's Yogurt. One of several locations in the city, popular with teenagers and families alike. Inside the shop that night were 4 girls. Jennifer Harbison, 17, a student at Lanier High School, was working the closing shift. She was athletic and driven, a member of the school's agriculture program and Future Farmers of America. Jennifer dreamed of going to Texas A&M and working in animal sciences. Her younger sister, Sarah Harbison, just 15, was a sophomore at the same school. Sarah was outgoing, energetic, and known for her big heart. She had a soft spot for animals and loved riding horses. Eliza Thomas, also 17, was Jennifer's close friend and coworker. Eliza was a smart, artistic soul who loved sketching, photography, and writing. She had just gotten her driver's license and worked at the yogurt shop to save for a car. And Amy Ayers, the youngest of the group, was only 13 years old, an 8th grader at Burnett Middle School. Amy was full of life. She loved country music, rode horses in her free time, and hoped to become a veterinarian one day. That night, the girls had made plans to hang out after work, maybe head to a sleepover, maybe just grab a movie. But they never got the chance. The shop closed to customers at 11 p.m. Sometime between 11:03 p.m., when the final sale was logged on the register, and midnight, something terrible happened. At 11:47 p.m., a patrol officer noticed smoke rising from the strip mall. Firefighters arrived quickly to find flames engulfing the small yogurt shop. At first, they assumed it was just an electrical fire, a tragic accident, nothing more. But when they forced entry and made their way to the back of the store, what they found would change Austin forever. Lying on the floor were the burned, partially clothed bodies of the 4 girls. They had been bound, gagged, and shot. Some were stacked together in what appeared to be a deliberate, almost ritualistic pose. The fire had been intentionally set, likely to destroy evidence. Amy Ayers, the youngest, had been shot twice, once in the back of the head, and once through the heart. Autopsy reports suggest she may have still been alive when the fire began. At least one of the girls had been sexually assaulted. "This is the most horrific crime I've ever worked," said Sergeant John Jones, one of the original homicide investigators. It wasn't just murder. It was personal. It was evil. News broke the following morning. What hit hardest wasn't just the brutality of the crime, it was who the victims were. These were local girls. Honor roll students. Horse lovers. Future vets and artists. Sisters. Friends. Candlelight vigils appeared on every corner. Photos of the girls were taped to store windows, beside bouquets and teddy bears. A $125,000 reward was quickly offered for any leads. The FBI was brought in. Dozens of detectives were assigned. Tips flooded in. So did rumors. But for all the horror uncovered that night, it would be nothing compared to what came next: a tangled investigation, false confessions, controversial trials, and decades of grief with no clear answers. The yogurt shop murders weren't just a crime. They became one of the most painful and divisive cold cases in Texas history. In the fall of 1992, less than a year after the yogurt shop murders, Austin police received a tip that seemed promising. Two men had been arrested in Mexico for an unrelated crime, a brutal kidnapping and sexual assault, also committed in Austin. One of the men bore a striking resemblance to someone several witnesses had reported seeing outside the yogurt shop on the night of the fire. Austin detectives traveled to Mexico to question them. At first, the men denied any involvement in the yogurt shop case. But under interrogation by Mexican authorities, the kind of questioning that has since raised serious human rights concerns, both men confessed. It sounded like the break the case needed. But then, cracks began to show. The details they provided didn't align with the crime scene. They got timelines wrong. Their version of events contradicted the physical evidence. When Austin police re-questioned them, the men recanted. Ultimately, their confessions were dismissed as unreliable, and no charges related to the yogurt shop case were filed. It was another dead end. Another swing and miss. And for the families, another wave of hope, crushed. In 1999, nearly 8 years after the murders, police made what they believed was a breakthrough. 4 young men were arrested. Robert Springsteen, Michael Scott, Maurice Pierce, and Forrest Wellborn. Their faces were familiar to detectives. All 4 had been questioned within days of the crime back in 1991. At the time, there was no hard evidence connecting them to the scene. No DNA. No fingerprints. No surveillance footage. Just suspicion. But 8 years later, that changed. Police obtained confessions from both Michael Scott and Robert Springsteen. In October 1999, detectives sat down with Michael Scott. He was interrogated over 4 days for more than 20 hours, often without legal counsel present. In the final stretch of questioning, Scott broke. He confessed, telling police he was there the night of the murders. That he saw the girls die. That he helped.
We want the truth, and you know what the truth is. You're having trouble with the memories or flashbacks. You know what happened. You're scared to tell us. I don't blame you. It's a horrible thing what you saw in there.
Look, can I tell you what I keep seeing in my head?
Tell us what you see in your head.
I keep seeing these girls get shot.
Right. Tell us what that looks like. Tell us what you see specifically. How they're getting shot and who's shooting them. Come on, Michael, you're doing good. Tell us. Let's do this today. Let's do it.
Seeing girls, I remember seeing them down. I remember one girl screaming, terrified.
Okay.
I don't know if this is real or not, or if this is...
Michael, it's real. It's okay. You can present it to us any way you want, but it's real. Mike, look at me. You're remembering what happened because you were inside there, right? You're remembering what happened.
I don't honestly remember going in the building.
But you were in the building. You went in there with them. I don't believe that, Michael. You do remember going in there. And you know you were in there. Did you shoot any of those girls?
No, sir.
Then tell us what happened. What did those 2 boys do to those girls? You want to live with this the rest of your life?
No, I don't.
Then get it out right now. They're you over. They're the ones that shot the girls. Do it. What did you see happen?
At some point where he's handed that revolver, what does he say to you?
Either shoot him or you're next.
That's what he said.
Because I didn't want to do it.
Right. Either shoot him or you're next. What do you remember hearing then?
I remember looking at this girl. I cry. I hear Robert saying, "Do it, do it." I hear the gun go off. I only pulled the trigger once. I turn around. Here's your stupid gun.
What happens next, Mike? That brought back some memories, didn't it?
I remember looking at the gun.
You ever seen that gun before?
I'm not positive.
Does that look like a gun you've seen before?
It looks like a gun I've seen before, but I'm not positive.
Is that the gun you shot somebody with, Mike?
I don't.
Is that the gun you walked up behind somebody with and shot in the head? Is that the one? Talk to me, Mike.
Yes,
You did that, didn't you?
yes, sir.
We've just opened some more doors, haven't we, Mike?
Not really.
You sure?
Yes, sir.
Days later, Robert Springsteen gave a similar statement under interrogation. Their stories were inconsistent. Some details didn't match the crime scene. Other parts contradicted each other. But investigators leaned heavily on the two confessions.
The problem is, we gotta get
What
to the
are our options?
Our
I
options
cannot
are,
give you any more truth than I've already given. Where do we go from here?
why can't you? Because
Because I don't
you're gonna dig yourself into that thing? Well, you're already there. You've already dug the hole. The hole's there.
Oh, that I'm in it. I don't know. That's what I keep telling you guys. I mean, my God, this was 7 years ago.
But this is one of the most significant things that ever happened in your
That's
life.
what I keep trying to explain to you. If I was there and I partook in this, I would remember these things.
And you do remember these things.
No, I don't. No, I do not.
You're the coldest guy I've ever talked to in my life. Are you a cold-blooded murderer?
No, sir, I'm not.
I think you are. I think Maurice is absolutely true about you.
Well, then
You're the coldest guy I've ever talked
we need
to.
to take.
Pardon me?
Then let's take whatever actions we need to take. If that's what you believe and that's where you think this case needs to go, then let's go there.
We don't want to go there.
But I'm doing everything I can and have exceeded my limits of helping you guys. Where do we go now?
What did Maurice make you do with that 380? Huh? What did he tell you to do? If that's right, or what's going to happen? Oh, what did you do? What did you do? Which one? Okay, where? Where? Where did he make you shoot? Wow. Where? She already down? She already show up? What happened? You're dead. Cancer. What else? What else did you do? Yeah, you did. You did? You're there. Absolutely. You are there. How else did you do? You weren't there, did you? Hello? Yes, you do. You know how to just say it.
Despite there being no physical evidence tying any of the four men to the yogurt shop, charges were filed. Springsteen and Scott were indicted and sent to trial. The cases against Pierce and Wellborn eventually collapsed. Prosecutors dropped the charges due to lack of evidence. But for Scott and Springsteen, their words sealed their fate. Both were convicted of capital murder. Not because of what they did, but because of what they said, under immense pressure. At trial, the state relied heavily on their confessions. But there was a problem: Scott's confession was used against Springsteen, and Springsteen's was used against Scott. Neither man took the stand. Neither was allowed to cross-examine the other. In 2006 and 2009, courts ruled that their Sixth Amendment rights, the right to confront one's accuser, had been violated. Both convictions were overturned. "It's clear these were not voluntary confessions," said a defense attorney in Springsteen's appeal. "They were manufactured, coerced, and completely unsupported by the physical evidence." To this day, no physical evidence has ever tied any of the four men to the crime scene. DNA found at the scene, including on the victims, did not match any of them. When modern DNA testing was conducted years later, the profiles found on critical evidence, including clothing and vaginal swabs, excluded Scott, Springsteen, Pierce, and Wellborn entirely. That unknown DNA remains in the FBI's database, but has never been matched. In 2010, Maurice Pierce, the man some detectives once called the group's ringleader, was shot and killed by police during a traffic stop in Austin. He had pulled a knife, and officers opened fire. His death had no connection to the yogurt shop case, but it closed a tragic and complicated chapter in the lives of the four men once accused. So were they guilty, or were they scapegoats? For young men. No evidence. Decades of doubt. And a confession tape that would come to define, and destroy, the state's case. In 2024, HBO released a new docuseries, The Curious Case of the Yogurt Shop Murders. It re-examines the case in harrowing detail, highlighting the flaws in the investigation, the damage done by forced confessions, and the mountain of questions that still remain. For many viewers, it's the first time they've heard of this case. For others, it's a painful reminder of a crime that's never been solved, and a justice system that failed at every turn. The hope now is that renewed attention might finally lead to the right questions being asked, or new witnesses coming forward. Because somewhere out there, the person, or people, who committed this crime are still free. For young lives. For grieving families. One city still searching for peace. It's been more than 3 decades since the fire inside that yogurt shop. But the scars it left behind haven't faded. We cover these stories because they matter. Because behind every headline, there's a family. A sister. A friend. A future stolen. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Have you seen the HBO docuseries? Do you think this case can still be solved? If you found this story as chilling, and heartbreaking, as we did, consider subscribing. We cover true crime stories that deserve to be remembered. Thank you for watching. And to the families of Amy, Jennifer, Sarah, and Eliza, we won't forget.